The FBI officers were frustrated when they saw that even if a prisoner was given some freedom in jail, they still couldn't escape. So how did 3 inmates manage to break out right under the authorities' noses? The craziest part was that for the next 10 hours, the authorities had no clue how they pulled it off. Not just the FBI, but 3 top-level agencies were putting in serious effort to crack this case. We're talking about a jailbreak that has been baffling experts for the past 60 years and has turned into a real mystery for the world. Once again, welcome back to our channel, the little island known as Alcatraz in the Pacific Ocean. It's just 22 acres, but this is where some of the world's most dangerous criminals were held. The island is situated on a huge rock in the ocean, which is why it's also called the Rock. It's surrounded by the ocean for miles, and for extra protection, there's a 15-foot-high fence around it. Plus, it's got guards keeping an eye on things 24/7. With the Pacific Ocean's strong winds and high waves, this island is always under watch. Considering all these conditions, in 1934, it was declared a federal prison where extreme security measures were in place. Basically, once someone got in here, there was no way to get out under any circumstances. This place had the reputation of being inescapable. But on July 12, 1962, the bubble burst when 3 prisoners cleverly fooled the security and made a break from it. The main characters in this story are the Anglin brothers, Clarence and John, who got caught up in a bank robbery, and then there's Frank Morris, who had been here for 13 years. Frank is already on the lookout for a way to escape, just like he has been in Alcatraz because of the bank robbery. This is Alan West, who has tried to break out of other jails multiple times before. That's why he's in Alcatraz under maximum security. Alan is pretty familiar with the layout of the prison, more than most, since he's been there longer. He first shared the idea of escaping from Alcatraz with his buddies back in 1960. Alan found a loophole in Block B that could help them get away, possibly to some extent. They were definitely meeting during lunch breaks and all that, but they weren't in Sales Block B. These 4 were really pushing to get shifted to Block B. Their initial target had been met, and they had all moved together to Block B. For the next 2 years, they kept to themselves in their respective cells, cooking up their own plans, and nobody had a clue about it. On July 12, 1962, as per routine, at 7 in the morning, the staff went out to collect everyone from the regions. When they did the head count during assembly, 3 prisoners were missing. The staff checked all the cells again and found Frank Morris, along with his buddy's Anglin brother, sleeping in their bed. It didn't seem normal at all to them, so they went inside the cell to try and wake them up. That's when they noticed that on all 3 beds, there were just dummy heads. Yeah, those guys had totally escaped. They had made these dummy heads using soap, plaster, and a concrete mixer. One of the heads fell and broke on the ground, which you can see in this photo. It was quite a scene. The staff was completely taken by surprise, realizing that the prisoners couldn't escape outside of prison, so they went into a full-on panic mode. But despite their efforts, they couldn't figure out what had happened to them. Everyone was puzzled as to how 3 prisoners managed to escape from such high security. One name that stood out was Alan West, who wasn't part of the escape plan. An investigation team was called in, and the FBI was also notified. It turned out that the 3 of them had broken through the small vent in their cell walls, which left everyone astonished. When it was checked the side of the wall, there were 4 vents with serious damage. Yeah, this was about the 4th vent of Alan West, which for some reason he couldn't pull off. Alan West had realized there was no way to save it, so he thought it would be better to let the investigator know about it. That's when Alan made a move to report it. He had created these dummy heads and actually stole the hair while getting a haircut. There was a small weight on the back wall of all 4 cells. The size was 5 by 9/30 inches. Allen was aware of the loophole in these cells because he had also worked in the maintenance department. He knew the walls were only 6 inches thick, and this could easily be increased. For 6 months, all 4 prisoners looked for opportunities around this to widen the vent. They used spoons stolen from the kitchen to make adjustments, and in the end, they even built a drill from the motor of a vacuum cleaner. They would place their musical instruments or any items they had in front of this excavation to hide their work. During the day, there was a lot of noise when they would head out. They would sneak into a corridor where there was no security. From there, a drain pipe led straight to the roof of the block where maintenance work was often done. To keep the prisoners at Alcatraz occupied, they were made to do maintenance work. These 4 prisoners would also head up to do maintenance, using that as an excuse to survey every little detail for their escape plan. From the roof, they would lower themselves down another pipe and then climbed over the 15-foot-high fence to make their getaway. They had done their arrangements already and had even put together an inflatable raft using rubber raincoats. These raincoats were provided by the jail administration, which they kept gathering little by little. On top of that, they had fashioned something like a life jacket out of the raincoats that would help her stay afloat if they ended up in the water at night. But for the FBI, the main question still remained: where were the escapees now? Their 4th partner, Allen West, had mentioned that according to the planned schedule, they were supposed to be heading for Alcatraz first. They had to land in the north at a place in Angel Island, where security is practically non-existent. From there, they planned to steal a car and some clothes. They searched all around Alcatraz, but there was no sign of any theft or robbery. It was impossible. They all managed to trick security, vanished without a trace. Even the story of Allen West was just a cover to fool the FBI. There was no sign of those 3. The footprints left on the 6th floor of Block B, where all this went down, led to nowhere. They had lowered him down by hanging onto the secret workshop, and seeing the footprints, it was confirmed that Allen West's story wasn't a lie. Now, along with FBI, the Coast Guard, Bureau of Prisons, and the Marshal Service were all brought in to start searching for prisoners in the ocean. But they found neither the prisoners nor any rafts or life jackets. This was all starting to turn into a bit of a mess. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a wooden paddle was found floating in the water, which was believed to be related to the case. Turns out it was just part of the raft. They also found 2 bags made from raincoats that had the prisoners' personal stuff, like family photos and letters. It makes you think the 3 prisoners didn't make it to land alive, since those items are not something any prisoner would just leave behind. Any dead body would float on the water's surface after a couple of days, but for months, the investigation team didn't find any bodies or body parts. One theory is that the 3 prisoners somehow made it to land themselves after their escape in 1962. The FBI was keeping a close eye on the Anglin brothers' family. One of their nephews, David Winner, told the FBI that John and Clarence's older brother had told their sisters at the time of his death that their brothers were alive and in contact with him. Several family members also mentioned to the FBI that on special family occasions, 2 women showed up with strange makeup that might have been John and Clarence in disguise. However, after that, the 2 of them seemed to disappear into thin air. Additionally, 15 years later, a cousin of the Anglin brothers saw the 2 brothers were at a club in Brazil, and their photo was taken. Their family also believes these are the Anglin brothers, but the marshals investigating the case think the person in the photo doesn't match the Anglin brothers. The last time anyone heard anything about the Anglin brothers being alive was a while ago, and since then, there's been no trace of them. The following year, Alcatraz was closed, and in 1979, the FBI officially gave up on the case. Now it's just with the U.S. Marshals, where this case is still open. And it will stay that way until prisoners are caught, or their bodies are found, or their age becomes 99 years. Alcatraz Island has been turned into a national park, where tourists can see the same bars where the Anglin brothers, Frank Morris and his buddy Alan West, were locked up 60 years ago. Hope you all enjoy this video, and don't forget to like and share. Thanks so much for your kind comments. See you next time.